سوا على الهوا سوا عطول سوا على الهوا ياتيكم عبر أثير إذاعة
صباح الخير أمريكا من يوم اللي اتكون يا
وطني الموج. Good morning, USR radio listeners. This is Adel Mozip welcoming you to the show. Today we're coming live to you from Dearborn, Michigan. I believe all of my guests are in Dearborn, and we are virtually online on Zoom, and it's broadcasting live to US Arab radio page, and we're also on the radio. So I hope that in this hour you will be hearing us talking political all the time, breaking down what's going to happen in next Tuesday. Next Tuesday is the last day where you can cast your vote for the Michigan primary. August 2nd is the last day where you can go to the polls and you have to vote. As of right now, voting has been going on for almost a month. Many folks actually still don't even know that voting is happening right now. So I'm doing a public service announcement to say that voting is underway. If you have not casted your vote, please go out and make your voice heard. If you are planning to vote, make a plan to vote, because many folks, unfortunately, don't vote in primaries. And if you don't vote in primaries, guess what happens? You leave that decision to other folks to decide. So we're going to break down the ballot today for you, and we will hopefully get some questions from the audience, whether they're online on Facebook, or you can call us at the studio, 248-557-3300. Welcome to the show. With me today is Mr. Paul Sophiea, who is a longtime political activist and a business consultant in Dearborn. He has held many positions on the state level and Michigan state boards. One of them is the Michigan Medical Board. I welcome him to the show. A good friend of mine. We've been known each other for quite some time right now. Paul, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you very much for the invitation, and greeting to everybody out there in the internet land.
Absolutely. And also with me is the executive director of the American Center for Human Rights, Mr. Imad Hamad. Welcome to the show, Mr. Hamad. It's always great to have you.
Good morning, Adel. Good morning to your guests. Good morning to all listeners. I appreciate the opportunity to highlight this important election. Many people, unfortunately, don't see the primary election as important. And this is a great reminder to all that we should take it more serious than what we think.
Absolutely. So, first question, what's the hottest race right now? A lot of folks are asking, why should I go and vote? Paul, let's start with you.
Well, I think the hottest race right now, and again, this is something for everybody to understand. If you vote Republican, you have to stay Republican. If you vote Democrat, you have to stay Democrat. If you cross over, your ballot is no good and you wasted your day standing in line. So make sure you understand that. So I think the hottest race right now is the primary on the Republican side. On the other side, the Democrats already have their candidate. So right now, the Republicans are in a fight to see who out of these four contestants will be challenging the current governor. Beyond that, I think each local race is different. It's going to be incumbent on all of us to do a little homework, because Dearborn right now is separated into two congressional districts, as well.
Actually, two congressional, correct, yes.
Two congressional. So you have, what's the 12th and the 13th, I believe?
Yes, correct, yep.
Yes, so Republican, vote for who you want for those congressional districts. Democrat, vote for who you want in those congressional districts. But I see those as being probably the most significant. Take some time, if you can, to learn who's running for your state rep, because again, there's some people running that weren't in my district before, but now they are, and vice versa. They've gone to the other side of the district by law. So those are what, in my opinion, I think are the key points.
Thank you very much, Paul. I totally agree with you. The governor race on the Republican side, if you're voting Republican, is definitely the hottest on the ballot statewide, because that person, whomever gets the nomination from the Republican, will be facing Governor Whitmer in the general election. We're going to talk a little bit further on that, Paul, so hold that thought on the Republican candidates who are running to challenge Governor Whitmer. Mr. Hamad, in your also opinion, what's the hottest race, especially for somebody who lives in Dearborn?
Well, indeed, as Paul noted, the hottest race is among the Republicans more than the Democrats. However, even within the race of Democrats, there are a few races that are very vital and very important, like what we have in District 10 for candidate Huwaid Arraf, when we talk about Dingle and District 6, when we talk about Andy Levin, Stephen Haley, and District 11, and then the major fight in District 12 and District 13. I think these races are very vital for the Democrats. It's true that at the end of the day, one Democratic person will win. The question here is who. And I think these races are very tight and closely watched. One thing that took place, that the redistricting this year caused lots of confusion, lots of mix-up. Unfortunately, so many voters still confused, don't know what happened, and they think that their voting is the same like before. And I think we have a long way to go. Another thing, as I started the program with you, that unfortunately many voters, many people, especially within minorities at large, they do not take the primary elections as serious, and they think that the election is limited to the general election and the presidential one. And that's very, very, very wrong. And it's proven to be that the primary election is more important than what people may think. Most of these races that I noted, maybe the primary election and the primary outcome is the election for them. They will guarantee the general election by them winning the primary election, because the redistricting here is pretty interesting, that shoveled the whole demographic makeup and the whole geographic makeup and the political affiliation of the makeup of these areas. So I agree that this is a tougher challenge. I don't think that the community at large, and particularly all the organizations, the political action committees and organizations, I don't think they did a good job trying to educate people very well during this particular election. I hope this will change as we get closer to the November election.
Absolutely. And this is part of why I did the show, because I know a lot of folks are still confused. I was actually uneducated, and I consider myself politically active since I'm an elected official. But I actually looked at the Republican candidates who are running for governor, and I didn't know most of them, which is not a surprise, because I live in Dearborn, and Dearborn is not usually targeted by Republican candidates who are running for governor. And I'd like to ask Paul this question, since he's very close with the Republican circles, why the Republican candidates are not targeting minority areas like Dearborn, Detroit.
Good question. That's something we debate amongst ourselves. I think there's a history there, and elections aren't snapshots. They're basically movies, and they, think of a movie lasting 2 hours versus a snapshot. You take a picture and that's it. Over the last few years, and I think it started with W getting in office, people felt betrayed, and they went to look for other alternatives. And I think the natural step is to go to the Democratic Party. And over time, the Republican support and presence has waned. They see it as a losing cause no matter what. There's a lot of anti-Republican sentiment. You're all crazy people. You all, will, whatever, you just want to get people out of the country. You want to kill people. You want to do all these things like that. And I've experienced that too. Even from internally when I ran for office, I think it was back in 2016, and then even more externally from the general public, either the independents or the Democrats. So I think that's part of the history. There's bigger fish, more concentrated voters in outstate. So at least in the primary, that's where they're going, because their competition is other Republicans. So they're all going there, and the time and resources to come to Wayne County, for instance, wouldn't necessarily pay off in the primary, just by the nature of the way things are set up as well. The logistics kind of hurt. Might think this guy's got a good idea, but
sorry, Paul. So it's pretty much math for them. They're doing a lot of math calculations. Where would I get the most votes? Wayne County and probably Washtenaw is mostly Democrat. So usually Republicans in primaries, same with Democrats, right? They would not go in hard Republican areas and campaign. It would be kind of, you're losing your time, right? You're wasting time over here.
time and resources.
However, you're right, time and resources. But however, I did receive some literature from one candidate who's running for governor as a Republican. Her name is Tudor Dixon.
Right.
So I'd like this opportunity, if you can give us a brief synopsis on who's running for governor on the Republican side and who has the most chances right now in your view this August.
Yeah, I just printed off an poll, and it's an average of all the polls put together. So it's going to be probably more accurate, but then again, the next poll will contradict what this poll says. According to this, Tudor Dixon's got the lead. I think she's got a lot of charisma, and she's meeting with the people. They find her very approachable, very affable, basically holding the core values of the Republican Party. So right now, it looks like her, when you look at her numbers since mid-July, July 15th, which is only a couple weeks ago, but polling as an eternity, she's gone up. She's gone up quite a bit. And the biggest voter is undecided. There's still close to 35%, maybe more, that are undecided. So it's anybody's race. But right now, Rinke is looking good. He's moving up, and Dixon, again, is moving up. But, we're going to have to wait and see. Like I said, these numbers are...
So can you tell us about those two candidates who are leading, Rinke and Dixon?
Yeah, Dixon is really popular. She's a media personality on the west side of the state, Grand Rapids area, I think is her home base. And then her audience broadens out from that. She's done a lot on the west side. She's been in the northern suburbs a lot. I haven't seen her our way too much, even within Republican circles. There may be smaller meetings that I'm not aware of, but that's basically her. She's, again, a media personality.
So she's a media person who is a businesswoman as well, seems like. Correct. From what she's selling. Okay, and then the other candidate is Rinke, who is from Oakland County, correct?
Correct, Kevin Rinke. He's got an interesting history. He's a businessman. You may have heard of the Rinke Automotive Group. He sold his interest in that, still within the family, but he's a very dynamic and successful business leader. He's purchased, car dealerships, obviously, suppliers. But the interesting thing is he purchased some clinics that specialize in brain injuries. And he grew that clinic, and he added services like, after rehab, our target is to get you mainstream so you could do the jobs you're capable of, or you could do jobs that as you recover, you will be capable of in the future. So he's got a good sense of working for people, working for their needs, and not necessarily a political perspective. So he's got a history of it. He's been to Wayne County. I brought him in. He met with some of the people in Dearborn and things like that. And a lot of people were concerned about a return visit because of COVID. But he has been down here. He's shaken some hands. He's very concerned about the Middle Eastern community. And he's come out and said he doesn't understand why there is, in the mainstream as a whole, not specifically, but he doesn't understand why there is so much animosity and false information coming out about the Arab American community. So that was one thing that really impressed me.
Great. Well, we're looking forward to hearing from those candidates, because I've been just following the up news. We'll get to Imad, but we need to take a commercial break. Do you want to take a quick a response and then we take a commercial?
Yeah, I just want to say that we are a diverse community here. And unfortunately, being part of both parties, Democratic Party and Republican Party, is only healthy. I don't think that it is wise and healthy for the community at large, even to be perceived. It is like for granted Democrats. I think that is making Democrats taking the minorities and the Arab and Muslim community in particular for granted. And that's where I think there is a great value for Arab Americans, Muslim Americans, everybody to be involved in both parties, because beside the political agendas here, there's also set of social values which is maybe closer to people at large than the democratic social values. So that's the beauty of democracy here. So I'm saying my point here is that also the community needs to reach out to Republicans as much as they reach out to Democrats. I know it's the other way around. Usually candidates, politicians who come to different outlets, to different communities to gain their vote. And I know many prominent Republicans within the community at large, but I think it created some sort of intimidation that it has to be a democratic choice. And I don't see that a real reflection of the reality here. We need to break that barrier, and we need to be involved in both parties and live the democracy at its fullest.
Yeah, absolutely. A great point. And frankly, the Arab American community, I mean, you ask historians, they were Republican majority back in the 90s. They actually endorsed George Bush the second for president. Many organizations did, and they didn't endorse the Democratic Party. So there has been a shift. And I think there is now a new conversation about a new shift toward the Republican Party within the Arab American youth. I actually did a straw poll just within the circles of youth that I have on Instagram. And many folks are actually switching parties because what they're seeing from the left. So that conversation is to be had. I think it's wonderful. Let's take a commercial break, and we do have a listener on hold, so we'll take their question. But let's take a commercial break, and we will be back. Stay tuned.
Clap your hands if you're happy and you know it and you really want.
5-year-old Lila and her mom are on their way home from Grandma's, singing Lila's favorite song. A few blocks away, 25-year-old Dylan is visiting friends at a small party. He finishes off his last beer, later, skater, gets in his truck, and starts for home. Mom and Lila turn onto Maple Street.
If you're happy and you
So does Dylan.
If you're happy and you know it and you really want to show it. If you're happy and you know it, shout hooray! Hooray!
Every 50 minutes in the United States, someone dies in a crash involving a driver impaired by alcohol or drugs. If you're impaired and you know it, don't drive. Drive sober. A message from the Michigan Office of Highway Safety Planning.
Ziyad brand, quality products from our family to yours. Ziad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Donna, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziad.com. That's www.ziad.com. Ziad, quality products from our family to yours.
At Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic in Dearborn, we provide effective physical therapy sessions in order to limit pain and discomfort. Top Rehab provides physical therapy care for any diagnosis prescribed by a physician, and we regularly see and treat conditions such as stroke, TMJ, fibromyalgia, sciatica, joint pain, and more. We use a variety of pain management methods, including modalities, soft tissue mobilization, and therapeutic exercise. If you're in need of physical rehabilitation or physical therapy, get the highest quality health care at Top Rehab. Most insurance is accepted, and we're open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday 8 to 6, Tuesday and Thursday 8 to 5, and Saturday 10 till 2. Call for an appointment today at 313-846-0555. That's 313-846-0555. Choose Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic on Michigan Avenue in Dearborn. Life's too short to be in pain. Get ready for an amazing experience at Ishtar Restaurant on 15 Mile Road in Sterling Heights. Enjoy excellent hospitality from owners Ali Al-Baghdadi and Fatty Bonham, serving the best in Mediterranean food. Try Chef Ali Al-Baghdadi's famous shawarma, the best Iraqi grills and food, and the best Arabic and international dishes. Dine in our authentic atmosphere or take out. Call 586-698-2585 or check us out on Facebook. Ishtar Restaurant practices all CDC guidelines and is open every day 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Have an amazing experience today at Ishtar Restaurant, 3625 15 Mile Road, Sterling Heights.
Welcome back, listeners. U.S. Arab Radio. This is Adel Mozip welcoming you back to the show. I am here asking all voters to go out and vote, educate yourself on who's running. This is a very important election. We have a lot of candidates who are putting their platforms out. As a reminder, as a courtesy, as a public service announcement, please do not cross parties. Please, let me say this in Arabic too. الرجاء من الجميع عدم تفريق الأصوات، لأنه إذا صوت للجمهوري والديمقراطي بنفس الوقت سيتم إلغاء بطاقتك الانتخابية. فلا تهدر صوتك، صوت فقط لحزب واحد في هذه الانتخابات التمهيدية. في نوفمبر يمكنك التصويت لمن تشاء للحزبين، لكن في هذه الانتخابات عليك التصويت لحزب واحد. Do not split your ballot. Make sure that you don't cross vote. So if you vote for a candidate who's Republican and you vote for a candidate who's Democrat in different race, your ballot will be spoiled. So make sure that you're voting for the right party that you would like to vote for. If you're voting Republican, then you only can vote for Republican candidates. If you're voting Democrat, then you can vote for Democrat candidates. So I would like to do one thing, if I may, Paul and Imad. I'm going to show, for those who are listening to us on Facebook, I'm going to show what the ballot looks like in Michigan for me. As you can see the screen, there is, and we'll talk race by race. Is that cool, Imad and Paul?
That's fine. It's your show.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about Wayne County Sheriff. Okay. So we have two, and this is for Imad, since he's very involved in Wayne County, and especially on the Democratic side. We don't have a Republican running for Wayne County Sheriff. We only have two candidates, Joanne Merriweather and Mr. Raphael Washington, who I believe is the incumbent, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell us just quickly about those two candidates?
Well, it looks like that the incumbent Sheriff Washington may have the chance to be reelected. as we all know, 2 years ago, he was appointed right after the death of Benny Napoleon.
Napoleon, yeah. God rest his soul. Was an amazing sheriff. Right.
Yes, he's one of a kind. He's irreplaceable. And I think Sheriff Washington still have a long way to live up to the legacy of Napoleon. But it seems like Sheriff Washington is picking up good support. To me, I don't measure it by the name of the many endorsements. I think the ultimate decision is for voters. But if you want to judge it in a nutshell and a safe face value, you see him ahead of the other candidates. It takes me back to the what I said, that in some races, the primary race is like the election. That's it. It's over. So if any of these candidates were to win, that's a go for them, and that's a win for November. So they rest their race and they move forward. MD Alam and the other candidates, I don't know much about the other candidate. I know a little about MD Alam. He's a member of the community, the Bengali American community. He's been an activist. He's been part of the Democratic Party. But my sense that he doesn't have the well-rounded support the same way Sheriff Washington does.
Joanne Merriweather is the contender, and it seems like she is, and Mr. Walter Ipps as well. So there are three candidates to choose from. You can only choose one person.
I think she's great. She's in a great standing. Her record is outstanding. Some people take a grudge against Sheriff Washington because of background of lawsuits that was presented against him. But I think eventually he overcome that and he's moving forward. So that would be the ultimate decision of the voters here.
Okay, let's move to the 12th.
He's been good in reaching out to the community at large. And, that's the notion of engagement that maybe only in Wayne County you see it aggressive, and you see it somehow inclusive to a certain extent. Again, he's doing a good job, and he got a good, well-rounded support around him.
Great. Let's look at the next race, which is the U.S. House District 12. On the Democratic side, there are four candidates. Obviously, with redistricting, this is a new district, right?
Yeah.
So, but we do have current Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib running for this position. Contesting her is not Wayne County, Detroit Clerk Janice Winfrey. There's also Chanel Jackson and Kelly Garrett. Do you believe, Imad and both Paul, you can weigh both on this because we're going to also talk about the Republican contenders, that Congresswoman Tlaib has the advantage being an incumbent, and do you believe that her four contenders or three contenders on the Democratic side don't have a chance?
Well, this is one of the tight races as well. It's not as easy as it was before for Rep. Tlaib. She's still ahead of everyone, but that doesn't mean that the race is very tight. There's lots of money is being poured into this district. I think the candidates here, the four of them, are good candidates, are qualified. So I would say that voters have a tough decision to select the right candidate. As it stands today, Representative Tlaib is ahead of everyone. But as we all know, we call elections crazy, unpredictable sometimes. Sometimes you see someone ahead of everyone and lose. Sometimes you see someone who's an underdog on the bottom of the list and win. Ultimately, again, it's the voter's choice.
Correct. Paul, on the Republican side, seems like we have three contenders. Do you recognize any of these names? Stephen Elliott, James Hooper, and Hassan Nahmi?
I do know Hassan. I've met him several times, on a passing basis, things like this. I will say, going back to what you said about the younger people coming into the Republican Party, he's a good example. I think he carries the values forward. I think he will represent the district quite well. He's lived in the district, although he's new to us in Dearborn. He's from Dearborn Heights, so he's well aware of the situations in the district. He's a very passionate, intelligent gentleman. He's wise behind his years. I don't even think he's 30 yet. So I think he's somebody we should take a hard look at. And if you want to have a little bit of change, instead of putting all your eggs in one basket, and if you're voting Republican, I would suggest him. The other two I have not met, although I've gotten flyers and mailers. I still haven't met them. I know they're out and about in other areas, but that's my opinion. I think Hassan would be a pretty good candidate, and I think he would represent and put a good face on the Middle Eastern community, as well as being somebody who's reasonable and could move us forward, the district forward.
Great. The next race is Michigan Senate District 2. Currently, again, it's a new district, but currently Sylvia Santana is a representative or is a senator from this district. Challenging her on the Democrat side is Mr. Maurice Sanders. For full disclosure, I did file for this seat and I withdrew on Friday after sitting down with Senator Santana. Challenging her, though, Paul, is Mr. Harry Sweeky. And I know Harry is the current president of the Republican Club in Dearborn and Dearborn Heights. So obviously, Mr. Sanders on the Democrat side, I don't know much about him. I think I can predict that Senator Santana is going to win this race easily in the primary. But for the general, can you tell us more about Harry?
Yeah, Harry has been active very much so in Dearborn Heights, city politics, state politics, and every 4 years he comes around for the presidential. So he's got a history all the way from, the lowliest job up to the president of the United States and working for candidates. He's a solid person. I mean, there's nothing you can say negative about him. You want to get into policies. I'm not sure that this is the place.
No, just more about him. What does he do for a living? What does he offer? That kind of thing.
Yeah, he's a former police officer. He's now a small business owner. He goes through the battles that all small business owners have, which is a kitchen table issue. It's not a philosophical one. He's got to keep the employees paid. He's the last one to get paid because he's got to take care of the folks working for him. So he's got experience, not only with the public as an officer, but also behind the scenes and trying to make his business work and run, and just those type of challenges. So he can feel these small businesses and their owners and what they're saying. He can take that up to the powers that be.
Thank you, Paul. Let's move to the Michigan House District, and we can take a break right after this. We have 3 candidates who are young Arab Americans running for this candidate for the seat. 2 are Yemeni Americans. 1 is Lebanese American. Al-Abbas Farhat, who also ran for the partial term. Sam Lukman, who is a longtime activist, and Khalil Uthman, who is also an engineer and a community activist. On the Republican side, Miss Ginger Shearer is running for the Republican nomination. It seems like she's running unopposed, so she doesn't have a campaign this August, but she will have a campaign in November. But Mr. Hamad, on those 3 candidates, who do you think has the most chance to win? And this is, I think, one of the biggest unpredictable race because it's a brand new district and brand new candidates. So we will have a new representative from this district for sure, without any incumbents.
Well, Adel, as you said, it's a new district. Results are unpredictable. I think we have 3 good candidates, very qualified. maybe in my personal opinion, I see Sam Luqman a real fit to it. That's not a statement against any other candidate. It's just the way I see it personally. But I see any of them is a great cut, a great representative with a great future to the district. Again, the voters will decide, and here we go. It's gratifying to see Arab Americans running, and this is something adds to our community pride. I only hope that in the future, especially within the Yemeni American community, we see more closer coordination, because it's the same way we see other communities. The name of the game here is how much of votes you're going to gather, how much you're going to earn. And to the Yemeni American community, it's obvious it's going to be a divide, and that's going to take away votes from Khalil versus Sam, or Sam versus Khalil. That may give the edge for Al-Abbas. It depends totally on the voters' choice, and I think any of them will represent the district well.
Thank you, Mr. Hamad. We will take another commercial break, and we'll come back to break down the ballot for you race by race. This is Adel Mozip with US Arab Radio. Please stay tuned.
Imagine you're on a train track, somewhere miles away. A train is headed your way. You can't see it yet, but it's coming, slowly but surely. If you have prediabetes or you're at risk for type 2 diabetes, you may be on the wrong track, and diabetes could be heading your way. Bit by bit, the danger is getting closer and closer. So should you stay on the track you're on now, or move to make a change and reduce your risk? If you have prediabetes or you're at risk for type 2 diabetes, you may qualify for the National Diabetes Prevention Program in your local community. This one-year program could be the ongoing support you need to put you on the right track. Not only did participants lose weight, they cut their risk of type 2 diabetes in half. Ready to get on board for a healthier future? Learn more about the National Diabetes Prevention Program and what else you can do to manage and prevent diabetes at michigan.gov/diabetes. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Huwaida Araf is running for Congress in the new 10th district, which includes cities where the Arab Chaldean presence is strong. A Christian Arab from Palestine, Huwaida is a civil rights attorney and a longtime champion of rights for all people, including Arabs and Chaldeans, here in the United States and around the world. Visit HuwaidaForCongress.com to get more information on her candidacy and why she needs your support in the upcoming August primary. Give your vote a voice and help elect a representative of and an advocate for our communities. Vote for Huwaida Araf on August 2nd or by absentee ballot. When it comes to reproductive medicine, IVF Michigan Fertility Centers are the recognized leaders. With locations in Bloomfield Hills and 5 other cities in Michigan and Ohio, IVF has experts in all aspects of the field. As a founding member of IVF Michigan Fertility Centers, Dr. Nicholas Shama is one of the leading reproductive endocrinologists in Michigan and Ohio. Dr. Shama has performed over 10,000 IVF cases and has helped thousands of couples fulfill their dreams of parenthood. American board certified in both obstetrics and gynecology and reproductive endocrinology and infertility, Dr. Nicholas Shama is a very caring, compassionate, expert physician that understands not only the medical but also the emotional toil of infertility on his patients. When it's time, get personalized care from Dr. Nicholas Shama at IVF Michigan Fertility Centers in Michigan and Ohio. Call toll-free 855-952-9600, 855-952-9600.
Welcome back, US Arab Radio listeners. This is Adel Mozip welcoming you back to the show. We're talking today about elections. We're talking about the races. And I have with me two very, very fine gentlemen, Mr. Imad Hamad, who is a community activist, the founder and executive director of the American Center for Human Rights, and also Mr. Sophiea, who is a community activist. And we're talking about the ballot. As I break down the ballot that is for me, so for folks who live in different areas, you will see a different ballot and different races based on the race that you're, based, like, for example, U.S. House of Representatives, If you are in the 4th district, you will see a different race. If you are in the 5th and the 15th district, you will see a different race. So this is only for district number 3. It's different, so we can actually check it out in a little bit and see who is running in that race as well. But we would like to talk right now about Wayne County Commission. And this is another interesting race. We have Republican candidates. One is Mr. Abdul Latif Al-Jahmi, who is running for Republican nomination, and Miss Ann Clark. So Paul, any thoughts on those 2 candidates? Do you know much about them?
I do not, so I'm going to hesitate to speak.
Okay, so I do know a little bit about Mr. Abdul Latif. I know he's a business owner. He's a real estate agent similar to Mr. Baidoun. And he has his information posted on vote411.org. He also has a website. Contending him is Miss Ann Clark, and who has been active also in the Republican Party for the past 18 years. There is also information on her on vote411.org. On the Democrat side, we have incumbent Mr. Sam Baidoun, who is running for re-election for the 3rd term. And running against him is Mr. Muhammad Mubarak. Imad, do you know much about, obviously we do know a lot about Mr. Baidoun. Do we know much about Mr. Mubarak?
Well, yes, not much, a little. He's a member of our community at large, and actually he surprised everyone by running. So he's a businessman. He's respected. He's not as known, and he got a limited campaign. Again, we go back to the core value here. Voters have a choice, and voters' choice will determine who is next. Sam is known. He gained lots of popularity, so he got that name recognition ahead of everyone.
Correct. Do you think, Paul, in the November election, obviously whomever is contending, this might be a seat based on how the elections go in August?
It depends on people's mood. I think all of us feel that there is a flow of a wave leaning toward Republicans more than Democrats. Usually it happens, it takes course every recession, every crisis, etc. So if we get an overlook at the way it's going in the election, let's say going back to the Senate, going back to the House of Representatives, it looks like that Democrats may win the House, the Senate, but they may lose the House. It's very interesting race. And I think the Wayne County Commission, I don't anticipate much of a hustle, much of a tight race on it.
Something that is not being talked about these days is obviously Proposal J, which is for all of Wayne County residents, and it's to renew a 10-year tax mill, which is about 0.94, so almost 1 mil, which will bring a lot of revenue to Wayne County, about 45 million. Much information from both of you, Imad and Paul.
I'm usually against proposals milking people's money and have people pay the toll. I think we have lots of money, millions of dollars. I think that the way that these funds are allocated and dispensed is a very interesting concept and merits serious review. I'm not fond of it. I'm not fond of any proposal unless it is really of a great value to the ordinary Mo and Joe on the streets, not something just to add to the money box of the county or the city or the state.
Paul, any thoughts?
Hard to argue with that. I think at this time where everybody's kind of stretched, everybody's kind of concerned, we don't know what the gas prices are going to be next week, or grocery prices, or cost to own the homes. You know, it's a question about value for dollars. And I don't think there's the justification to increase taxes given what's going on with the budgets.
I agree.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. And let's move to the Michigan governor race. Again, the hottest race of all of the state on the Republican side. Yes?
If I may, don't forget District 11 and 13.
We'll come back. We'll come back to those. Yeah, we have some time reserved for those other districts. This is my ballot. So let's look at the Michigan governor. Again, we talked a little bit about Tudor Dixon, who is running for governor on the Republican side, and who is leading right now. Obviously, for the other guys, Paul, Ryan Kelly, I know he was in kind of entangled with issues being part of the June 6th issue. So was he pretty much out of the race? He doesn't have much chances?
Well, he was a long shot to begin with. I think he's got a lot of support, and that support is solid. I mean, it's like a brick house.
He has his a big base kind of thing.
Yes. I haven't seen his numbers improving much, though. So he may have peaked. He's got a good message, but I'm not sure he could do the job if elected. So I have to tell you, I'm the type of guy who I do have a political philosophy, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm voting for that philosophy 100%, because there's a lot of practical aspects. There's a lot of things that go into it. The laws are written, to confuse people. So, but as far as he's concerned, I think, like I said, he peaked quickly. He's got issues trying to broaden the base. I think, and he was picked up too, by the way, on misdemeanors. So, do with that as you may and let the voters decide. Sure. But
how about Mr. Ralph Rabandet and also Mr. Soldano? Do they have any chances?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Paul? Okay. No, unfortunately, Ralph hasn't even posed enough to get on public debates on public TV. He doesn't have enough poll numbers. Nothing against him. That's just the way the decisions are made when you go look for money. I think Soldano has got a good following. He's also got a base. He's doing work here in Dearborn. He is reaching out. I think he'd be a reasonable person to get in there. Again, question is, how strong is Whitmer, and will they have the resources?
So obviously, this is a question in totality for both of you. Do you believe Whitmer has what it takes to be reelected?
Well, I think she's running a good campaign, very well financed campaign. She, broke the record in fundraiser. She got a good, well-rounded support. She's working hard, and she's not leaving any spot without reaching out. That doesn't mean much in the book. As much as it is important, people are not going to judge it by the name of these electoral visits and occasional engagements and down-the-earth approach with people, etc. I think people are going to render a judgment based on the leadership over the past 4 years, the major issues, the major challenges facing the state, and what was done from the prior elections campaign slogans, pledges, promises, and what was achieved. I think she, on the Democratic side, definitely she's the one. I think we're going to witness a very interesting tight race with her and the Republican candidate. So she cannot take it for granted. Money alone will not make it.
Absolutely. Paul, same question. Do you think Whitmer has what it takes to be reelected, or she's going to face very strong Republican contention, especially that Michigan is usually a toss-up?
Right. Yeah, I think what's going to hurt her are the practical issues, the facts that business have gone out of business and aren't coming back, the regulations, half full, quarter full, whatever they are, no sensitivity or thought for the business owners. I don't think people were brought together to work out a solution. I think it was pretty autocratic, and this is what's going to happen. And there's a lot of people fell overboard and aren't able to recover. So I think on a practical basis, she's in trouble. If you look at just, the party voters, they're going to vote their people, we're voting our people, and it's going to be an independent thing. So, the independents are going to decide this election as they always do. We don't know, or I haven't seen any voting on independents or numbers on independents. So from that consideration, it's going to be a toss-up. She's vulnerable. I don't know if people are going to make it a policy election or a popularity election. That's the unknown. But I think the right candidate on the Republican side can give her a fight for the money, no doubt about it.
Question to Imad on the other races for U.S. Congress. So we have Huwaida Araf, who is running in the 10th district. Who are her contenders? And who is Huwaida, to give the listeners some point?
She got two contenders. They are all new. It's a new district. So you have Huwaida, you have Judge Merlinga, and you have Angela. And they are three good candidates, actually. Judge Merlinga is known. He's respected. He's an older gentleman. Angela has been a city councilwoman in the city of Warren. She's been engaged with the community. Huwaida has been a long-time activist, a human rights lawyer. She's a classy cut. She makes a great representative. So this is going to be one of the interesting races here. And I think voters have a good choice among the three. In my opinion, Huwaida is the most fit one to that district. But again, winning the Democratic nomination doesn't mean that the race for the district is all up to her guaranteed, because she's going to face a Republican contender. And if you look at the redistricting map and the demographic makeup and the geographic makeup, it's almost 50-50 district. So it's going to be a hot race here at the primary. It's going to be a hotter race on November election.
Sounds interesting. This is for the voters to decide. There is a great website called vote411.org. If you would like to find more information about the candidates, about your ballot. There's also ballotpedia.com, which talks a lot about candidates and usually asks candidates a lot of questions, and they answer those questions. So I'm sharing on Facebook. For those who are watching on Facebook, the URLs where you can click on each candidate and learn more about them and what they offer. Candidates usually send in mailers about themselves. I usually, because I'm a political junkie, so I always read those synopsis, being somebody who designed those myself and sent them to voters. I pay attention to what gets sent to my address as a voter, as a voter who votes in every election. I do want to mention that every race is important. Do not discount any race. And I say, what's the hottest race, meaning what's one has a lot of competition and a lot of people raising money. Also, a lot of people pay attention to who raised money, and that could be good and it could be bad. So it's for the voters to decide. I'd like you to, now for closing statements, just to get some idea from both of you on where is Michigan heading. A lot of folks are, again, I go back to the shifting to the Republican side because of what's happening, the conversations nationally, especially with the Biden administration. So I'll ask Paul, do you think the policies on the federal level with the current Biden administration is going to help Republican candidates and hurt Democrats on the local level?
I think it probably will. All politics is local. We don't know how much of a factor Biden will be. I think this one is going to be based on your zip code and the people living in your next zip code, because Michigan's got some unique problems. We're always the first to feel the economic pinch, and we're always the last to get out of it. So we need somebody with a good philosophical base, but somebody who's got a history of working with people. One party isn't going to solve this issue. There's got to be some kind of camaraderie. I think the focus should be on everyday issues. And I think on the Republican side it is, because people are still steaming about the roads. We've had a tax increase, we've done all this, and then we're still not getting our roads fixed. So I think those type of questions are going to be discussed. Fix the damn roads only goes so often and so far. So what's round two going to be like? And I think a little bit of imagination and creativity is going to help the Republicans. And as I mentioned before, I think in my evaluation, there's a person there who can really add something to it, keep people motivated, and get down to the nuts and bolts of fixing our roads and finding out what happened to all these businesses. How are we going to giving somebody like the governor said, $5,000 one-time thing. That doesn't do anything. You could blow that just paying off some bills in 2-3 months. So what about after that? So we need somebody with a long-term plan, somebody who could work it, and somebody can get buy-in from both sides of the aisle. So that's where I think it's going, and the person who can make that case, I think it's the best strategy and the best way to move forward. I think we do ourselves a disservice in this, or I shouldn't say that. I wanted to go back to what you said about you being a political junkie and reading these things. I think we do ourselves a disservice if we don't hold the politicians accountable for what they say, regardless. That's the problem. They get in there and say all this stuff, and then they do. Once they get in there, there's nothing there. And I would ask people who are, like us, political junkies, to save the flyers from the candidates. Look at the flyers they get throughout the campaign.
I still have a pile of them. Yeah.
See if they're the same person, for Pete's sake. Are they promising you this here in Hamtramck, but this in Novi? What's their policy? What are they talking to people about? Are they same people? Even if they're in Dearborn and they're in one of the new districts, are they starting out? And when they finish, what's their message? And then you could see. So it's interesting.
Imad, same question for you. Do you think the political spectrum, political polarization on the federal level is hurting Democrats and benefiting Republicans?
Indeed, I think that's how it is going for now, and God knows what next. If it keep going this way, I see the flow is going more in favor of the Republican versus Democrats. I agree with Paul that it's about time for us, we the people, we the voters, to hold the elected officials accountable. During the campaign trails, you see them the best. You see them at their best status, like they talk the talk, they give you what you like to hear, etc., etc. But when they get it's a totally different board game. So I urge the public here, I urge everybody to vote smart, uneducated, uninformed vote. It's very dangerous and very helpful.
Thank you, Imad, and thank you, Paul, for being on the show. Listeners, it's your choice. I will have another show on Friday to talk about the elections. So stay tuned. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Take care.